to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, I am welcoming, as you are too, the two fabulous ladies behind Light and Dwell, a 5-year-old Oregon-based interior design firm specializing in both full service and virtual design. Aymee and Molly each have very different superpowers. Aymee is all about business operations, while Molly focuses on all things creative. Each lady is married with 3 children, and they have come together to create a thriving business that celebrates the innate talent of each of them. Before we get to the show, a reminder that early bird registration for LuAnn University ends this coming Friday, March 5th, 2021. We have classes on design build, online bookkeeping, marketing, and scaling your window treatment business. Go check out all the fabulousness at LuAnnUniversity.com. So many of our trusted experts are teaching this semester, including Peter Lang, Nancy Ganzikoffer, Tracy Connell, Kat Anderson, Vita Vykovsky, and Jenny Slingerland. Check it all out at LuAnnUniversity.com. All right, let's meet Aymee and Molly. Hi, Molly. Hi, Aymee. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Molly, how are you today?
I'm good, LuAnn. How are you?
I'm very good. And Aymee, how about you? How you doing today?
Doing great over here. Happy to be here.
That's great. I'm delighted. That's my standard line. I'm delighted, but I am delighted. So you guys have a very it's not, you have a nice unusual story start to your business where you're in business now, 5-6 years, going on 6 years, right? And
Yes.
It's interesting, we don't have a lot of opportunity to have conversation on the show about partnerships. So I want to pick that apart in a minute and how that works and the dynamics of it. But I like your coming together story. So which one of you wants to share with us how you guys came to be in business?
Okay. This is Molly speaking. You can't see the camera, but Aymee and I have our cameras on and we're both pointing at each other. You start. No, you start. So
We're so shy. We're so shy.
Yeah.
This is Aymee,
Okay.
and we're shy. We're not.
yeah. Okay. So how we kind of came together is we had met years ago when I was in college, and Aymee was hosting a girls group at her house for something called Young Life, and I had been pestering her for about a year to be my mentor in life, and she continued to say no over and over and over again. This is a true story. Finally, we connected and she said, okay, I'll hang out with you, I guess. So we started hanging out. We became friends. And then we both actually ended up on Young Life staff together, but in different places. And then about 5-6 years ago, Aymee approached me about going into business together. I had it's embarrassing, but I had a lifestyle blog where, we didn't have a lot of money. I was fixing up different places and houses that we were living at and kind of documenting that, and also kind of shared recipes and lifestyle stuff. So Aymee, her business mind, and she also has an eye for interiors. Don't let her tell you otherwise. She approached me and was like, hey, you could be, let's go into business. Like, you could actually make money off of this, do something with this. What do you say? And I say yes to everything that Aymee says. And I jumped on that bandwagon and we started Light and Dwell, and it just kind of went from there.
So here's my question in there. I didn't know the part where you had to continually beg her to take you on as a mentor.
Okay. You let me clear.
We're going to get the other side now, Molly. Sit back.
The funny part of that is I'm like, okay, now granted, I do write everything down because at that time, I was a mom with 3 kids raising my family. I was pretty busy. But I don't really remember that part of the story. She swears she has a better memory than I do. So I was probably just trying to, keep my head above water. But she always stood out among the group. We did talk about a lot of things, but we spent a lot of time, talking about the deep life things, but also, and we connected on that level. But also we love to talk about clothes and, recipes and interiors. And I even had begged her, and this is another beg, I'll just reverse the beg, to take me clothes shopping. She dresses me now.
I need that, by the way.
Yeah. It's actually like a superpower, just a side superpower.
Yes.
So she took me shopping and, I was like, nothing too crazy, but she's just good at anything you can see. It's just, it's a gift.
Yes, it's true. It is. There are, and most of our audience has that gift, right? Right. We know them, right, Aymee? So I really want to just take one more second with that part of the story there about the quote unquote begging to be a mentor. So Molly, Molly, and Aymee, I hear you. 3 little kids at the time. Look, you're a nice kid. You're great. We love to talk, but it can't be on a formal basis. It almost sounds like you're saying, right? But the question for you, Molly, is what was it that you were seeking? Why were you seeking the mentor? Was it more from a standpoint of, guidance and life and all of the things, or was it that you felt like there was a business in you and you needed some help? Which one was it?
At the time, it was definitely, I was just, grabbing onto anybody who could give me advice in life. I got married really young. I got married in college to my high school sweetheart. And so as you can imagine, I was basically the only married one at this college group at the time at a, state university, Oregon State. So, I saw Aymee, her house. I mean, we met at her house, and her house was just, when you go to people's houses and you walk in and you're like, wow, this is how I want my house to feel. This is the environment I want to have around me. Amy's just very warm and welcoming, and that was incredibly attractive to me, and somebody that I wanted to, gain more knowledge from. And so that's kind of why I had originally reached out to her. And then, she eventually said yes, because I don't take no for an answer. I hound until I get what I want. So it worked out.
That's fun. It's good. I mean, you know what? It's a nice, sweet beginnings of your relationship together, and there's a lot of there's a lot to be said in there. It's for you to be, Molly, the type of person that just keeps saying, no, this is what I would love to have. That shows a lot of grit. And Aymee, you have 3 kids, you have a life, you have a husband. It's like, all right, kid, let's do you too. Okay. As long as you pick out my clothes, we're good. Right?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So you have this friendship and it develops, and it's all the things. And then there's a moment where, as Molly described, that you were saying, to her, I think, Aymee saying to Molly, I think you could do something with this. It was the blog at that point, or was Molly already designing at that point? What was it that you saw from a business standpoint, Aymee, that sort of lit you up there about what she was creating?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was at the beginning of the whole just blog phase. And I was just seeing how people were taking that, passion and creating a business out of it. At the same time, I had a friend reach out to me. She wanted to do a pretty good size remodel on her house. And she was like, hey, would you help me with this? And I can do it for my own house, but it takes another level of talent and I think confidence and skill to be able to do it for somebody else. And that was really the thing that I went to Molly on was, hey, I actually have this potential client / guinea pig who's willing to be our first person. Should we try it? Should we just see and I'll work on the billing and the process and, all the back end if you take the lead on picking everything out and finding everything. So we did. This client still is just, she lives in our town. She's just the most wonderful first client you could ever imagine. She's just so positive and she's a business person. So it was just a great start and a place for us to say, let's give it a go. Let's see. She was willing to pay us a little bit. We took that money and, bought our, domain name and had a friend help us, who had just graduated in graphic design. We had her, she was very talented, help us put together our first website and, some branding, that has all since had a refresh, but, that was kind of the start of it. And I didn't know, I guess I was surprised when I went to Molly. I was like, I don't know, you're probably not interested in this. Cause I saw her more going, it felt like she was more going toward the lifestyle thing, but she surprised me when she said, no, that interiors is what I would want to do. That would be me. And I'm like, really? Well, then shoot, we got to do it. So.
Okay. I love it. I think it's great. You know how many times we've heard on the podcast that a designer's, the tipping point to getting in the business was either their own project that they did that many people complimented on, or to your story, like a friend who's willing to take a shot and say, you've got great taste, you've got style. Let's see if you can, translate this into my home as well. So, okay. So we do that. We take the little bit of money that she pays you for that. You do that little bit of investment into your, sort of rudimentary business things. When is the point that the next client comes along, and when is the point that you then declare an entity and you get it all official and big girl panties are on and you're like, okay, we're actually a business now?
Well, you want to go, Molly, you got it.
Well, this is Molly here. I can answer a little bit. There was some kind of planning, scheming behind kind of that first project. And I think at that time, just my personality and Amy's personality, Aymee is more, I'm going to write everything down. I'm going to have systems in place. I need to, know for sure that this is going to work and that we're not going to crumble from doing this. Where my personality is more, I'm going to dream for the hills, but I'm going to have no idea how I'm going to get there. I'm just going to start and do it. And I think that really showed in that first project where, in my head, I was thinking about the marketing pieces of it. I was thinking about, okay, well, what do we, whose house can we do next? And how do we get our name out there? And so we styled and photographed that house. And I'm mortified when I think about
hard on herself.
When I think about that first project, I just laugh. It's so just hilarious. But so we photographed it and, we put it on our website. And from there, people always ask well, how did you get to doing full service jobs? In the beginning, we literally said yes to everything. I look back in my planner of, just different design appointments we had. We went to over 200 homes or talked to over 200 people in that first year of just business figuring it out. And so I'm not really, to answer your question about getting that first client, Aymee, do you remember who was the next, was it my mom's house?
Right.
Yeah, there was there was a lot of that. This is Aymee. We started that first client in November. And then that fall, that next February 1st was when we announced, we're in business, we're doing this. And really, I mean, I think Molly and I are from this area. We're pretty well connected. Our families are from here. We had a lot of, inquiries. It would just be like, hey, I need to style my living room. Okay, we'll do that. I need help with, I'm going to do custom drapes in you would be mortified, LuAnn. Like, we had no business, but you would have been like, clowns, don't,
back away from the drapery rods, ladies.
Yeah.
Exactly. Luckily you weren't there, so we just carried on. But, we kind of just did, moved on and tried to build our confidence and our skill set. We didn't charge very much because we weren't worth very much. It was a lot of learning, and it was a lot of listening to your podcast. It being really almost borderline creepy on your podcast.
Yeah, I mean,
it built structure, really.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, this is Molly. I remember sending Aymee like specific podcasts of yours and being like, you have to listen to this one. I feel heard, or this person is experiencing the same thing that I'm experiencing. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, just some of those designers that I really looked up to in the industry, just realizing, wow, they have a really similar story or had some similar experiences that we are experiencing now. So there is hope at the end of this. We can get to where we want to get to if we really want to.
If you try and you work hard at it, right? Mm-hmm. So interesting. So I'm glad that the podcast helped you in the beginning. What you just said reminded me of when I interviewed Amber Lewis. I don't know if you've ever heard that story.
Yes.
But
we listened to it.
Right? But I was inviting her to the show because I met her I didn't meet her. I saw her at Design Influencers Conference. She was a keynoter. So I was inviting her, sending the pitch every 6 or 8 weeks, blah, blah, blah. And 8 or 9 months later, all of a sudden, she contacts me and she said, I have been listening to your podcast. I just found your podcast. It's changing my life. In the last 3 weeks, I've listened to so many episodes. So many questions are on here. Thank you. And I'm like, wait, that's Amber Lewis. And I was like, exactly. I've been emailing your team for a year, and then in 2 days, it was like, okay, there's an appointment, right? But to your point, right, Molly, that just feeling like being heard and understanding that growing a business, there are so many commonalities in the struggles, and that you're not alone in it. And you each come into, every one of us comes into it with our own innate gifts. And I love that your gifts are opposite. You two remind me of me and Vinny, right? So the one is really structured and buttoned down and all the things, and the other is the dreamer and the marketer and what's next. And it's such a powerful combination to have in a partnership. And that's so exciting for you. I'm going to pull the partnership apart a little bit, but interesting that you said that in your first year you had contact with more than 200 people. And I hear that you come from an area where you are both have, roots and family and extended friends and all of the things. But interestingly, I want to say it was Veronica Solomon's Facebook group just the last week or two. And Veronica Solomon's Facebook group, if anybody's not familiar with it, is called What They Don't Teach You in Design School. It's a fabulous group, very supportive. Veronica is a major leader and mentor to everybody in her group. But in the group recently, someone said, I'm brand new. I just opened my business. What should I do? Right? And so it's like, my brain goes, whoa. Like, okay, did you call a lawyer? Do you have a bank account? Do you have all these things, right? And then, but she went on to say, how do I get clients? And so I'm curious, was there anything, now, Molly, you talked about how you were thinking about the marketing as you were doing that first project for the friend, thinking about the pictures that you would get and the way you would do it. Were there other things that you would, either of you, say to that designer that just posted that recently in the group? Do these 3 or 4 things, even if it is related to how do you let your friends and family know, as if that's one of the tactics that you did. Anything come to mind? A couple of quick tips for that designer?
This is Aymee. I mean, Molly, maybe you definitely weigh in on this, because I feel like from a marketing side, you did really well. But I think we both put it on our personal pages. We had, Light and Dwell, like on Instagram. That's a big part of our business, was Instagram, having a really effective website, not too much going on, really, because if people are like, yeah, I may be interested, or maybe I'd be interested, but I need to understand how does it work, and how do you structure your services? And so make sure you have that all down before you're going out there and drumming up too much business. Like, what do people need, and what are the services I'm going to provide? And then we just started, again, taking that and putting it on our personal pages and sharing it, I think, initially with people, and then they would share with people. And what else would you add, Molly?
Yeah, I mean, all of that. I would also say, just talking about being connected, Aymee won't say this, but I would probably say, over half of the clients that we got were because Aymee is super connected. Just her being a little bit, I hate to say older.
You can say it.
I knew she was struggling for that word.
Yeah, my older sister.
What's funny is, if I didn't know, I have to cut you off, Molly. If I didn't read the bios, I would not think that there was a really an age gap between the two of you, looking at you.
Okay.
I mean, I can see that Molly is young. I'm not saying I can't. I'm not, off the train, just a minute here. But when I read that you have young adult children, Aymee, I'm like, come on. Like, what did she have when she was 12? Like, come on. Like, that's crazy. So anyway.
I did, Molly, I'll let you finish, but you're very generous, both of you, because funny story, when Molly and I were trying on clothes together, the store assistant asked, would you and your mother like to share a room? I just almost walked out, but then I wanted the clothes bad, so I just went in with, my tail between my legs. I was like, at least call me a cool older aunt.
Right. No, I would never take you old enough to be your mother. That's crazy.
No.
That sales rep, that saleswoman was probably 17, so she has no concept, right? Anyway.
Aymee, yeah, okay, your goals when you look great.
I know.
So anyway, so just social
so
media.
Being more established in the community and having a longer and wider network of friends and family, right? No, the whole PTA, your kids growing up, that is a lot of network, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of networking. Yeah. And so Aymee had that. And then, on the other side of things, on more of my side of things, for kind of the visuals, the marketing side, I had a fairly successful lifestyle blog. And so I had a higher following on my personal account at the time. So when I transitioned over to Light and Dwell, I had kind of figured out how to play the game of, okay, well, in the beginning, we need to do some giveaways. We need to have these people, talk about Light and Dwell. How do we get them to talk about Light and Dwell? And then I also just knew how important the visuals were on Instagram at the time. I mean, this was a while ago, before stories, before, all that there is now, but just knowing the importance of, having photos every day, having, your photos look good and having the lighting look good. So at the beginning, we kind of, I came in on that side of things and knew how to grow the look of the brand and how to market it and how to get people excited about what we were doing, how to get that corner shot when we would go style somebody's house and when we didn't do any of the flooring. We didn't really paint. And there's this one little corner shot that I can get of the shelf styled in this way. So just kind of figuring that out and being pretty scrappy.
Yeah, you sound like us when we're trying to take pictures of our window treatments, you know, and the rest of the room hasn't been designed. If it's not a project that we're doing for a designer, so often the rest of the room is like, you know, like we could have an amazing drapery there, but there's that lazy boy sitting there. Yay.
Exactly.
So what I heard in there is that definitely to have an effective website. So we're going back to that one designer because there's that one asking the question. There's 5,000 out there thinking it. So it's having the effective website first. And I say all the, you know, it's funny in my presentation at Window Fashion's International Window Covering Expo, I have the same thing. I say, you know, yes, tell everybody, but once they hear about you, they're going to want to confirm what they heard about you. It's no different when I say to you guys on the show all the time. You reach out, you talk to me, you tag me, you do your stuff. You know, I'm going to go back and look at you. You know what I mean? And I don't care if you have 2 followers or 25,000 followers, but I care how do you present to the world? Do you tell me your name? Do you show me your picture? Do you tell me the type of work do you do? Do you tell me what's important to you? Can I come to your social media, to your website, and get a feel for who you are? And think about that. I want that feel to just simply say yes to having a conversation with you. How about somebody wants that feel before they decide to plop 20, 30, 40, 50 grand down with you, right? So I love that advice that you said there, Aymee, to have the website ready. And then you also said in there, Aymee, that you gotta, you know what your services are. What are you going to provide? Can you identify a gap or a need in the marketplace? So this designer that asked this question, what is your lane? What is your niche? Is there a gap there? Can you capitalize on it? Can you leverage it? Can you let the world know that you're there to fill that gap, whatever it is, whether it's, you know, wellness design or design for boomers or all the different avenues that you can choose to niche in, right? And then the other thing that you guys said is this eye to marketing is to understand, not to be like Window Works and go, there's no pretty shot here and leave. Like to figure out a good shot because it's important. And, you know, what I heard in what you were saying about the Instagram and the social media, Aymee, was that, you know, consistency and quality, you know, showing up every day to the people, wherever it is, whether it's Facebook, it's your email, it's your social, your Instagram. But then when you go there with quality. So, I love those tips. Okay, so great. So let's go to the partnership now, because it's not easy being in a partnership, and you come to it from, I will call them call them disciplines, but innate talents. And so in the beginning, sometimes it's hard to recognize that the other person's superpower, which is not what you understand and know, is the thing that you need. But beyond that, just being partners can be difficult. Do you guys have lessons or hindsights that you can think of that might be helpful to anyone out there now, either contemplating a partnership with a friend or might be in the middle of one and looking for their sea legs?
Yeah. I got a couple, and then I know Molly will add to this. So this is Aymee. We spend a lot of time talking about, I think in the beginning, what was hard to figure out was our load, and how do we have good, balance, and how much are we working? I had teenage, pretty intense teenage, kids. That's just an intense season. Molly was adding to her family. She had 2 kids, since we've started the business. So I think we've just had to have, those have probably been the most intense conversations. So I'd say, like, have the courage to have conversations that are hard, and maybe lead with, giving the person like the benefit of the doubt. And I know for Molly and I, we never doubted each other's commitment to the business. We're both extreme, hard workers, but we also really love our families, and, having a small business can be very consuming. So we had to work through, like, in the beginning, we weren't working, we felt like we were working around the clock, but we definitely had to figure out, like, what are the hours we can book appointments? What are the hours we can, that are off? Can we just email and don't just text each other all the time? Like, cause then you feel like you never have a break. So kind of figuring out some of those, and that has changed over time. We're in different places. Our business has really grown. We've been able to, kind of figure out that load, but we're still talking about it. We don't want to we want to enjoy each other. We want to enjoy our clients and our projects. We both like a full plate and we want to work hard, but we have overdone it before. So I think just maybe like figuring out, what are your goals? Trying to say no so you can say yes to other things. Be aware that there might be stage of life or seasons of life things. Cause I think for us too, we were thinking the long haul. Like we want to think about this business growing and enduring over time. So we don't need to be in some race. So what would you add to that, Mom?
Yeah. I mean, I think just in general, going into business, we were friends before. And so you kind of see that person, you see your friends and you see, like Aymee, let's just take the Enneagram as an example, because we are really big into the Enneagram. Aymee is a 7. So she's an enthusiast. She's, a go-getter with a really strong 8 wing. So she's very direct. She likes to have a lot of fun. So in relationships, people are like, so fun, can start a conversation, is up for anything. And where I'm a 3, so, I'm an accomplisher. I like to achieve things. And I'm also a people pleaser. So I'm very aware of like what people are thinking about me. I'm very aware of how I'm coming across to people. And so in a business relationship that wasn't my marriage, in a relationship that was becoming just as close, I was feeling that tension of, I really want to please Aymee, and I don't want to have, any riff or conflict in this, but, this maybe, Aymee being really direct or something felt insensitive to me, but I'm not going to say anything because I'm just going to, that's not in my nature. That feels uncomfortable to me. So I would say probably year 2 or 3, we were feeling, at least, I mean, I know we both were, but just feeling some tension of, I've got to get past this. I've got to be honest. And Amy's married to a 3. So she gets it. And
I like 3s most of the time.
Most of the time. Yeah. So there was just a lot of, self-growth. And I think, just in these past 5 years, not only have I learned so much about Aymee and learned, okay, like I said, the Enneagram has been such a helpful tool. I feel like I understand Aymee and how she's processing, and I just see so many good things in her. And I understand when she's saying something direct, it's not in a mean way. It's just, that's how she communicates.
Yeah.
And
sometimes
and so,
it can be mean.
Well,
let's not muck around and get to the bottom.
Okay, let's not mug around. No, but really, I think that knowing that, it's just made us so much stronger. And now just being able to be really honest and transparent with each other where we were not in the beginning, it's just, we've had to have those hard conversations. And you always do. But I think knowing that in the end, Aymee and I love and care about each other so much that ultimately our relationship is more important than the business, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So our relationship is more important. And so I feel like there's this, safeness in our relationship where if either one of us were to say, whoa, like this is too much, I don't think either of us would railroad and be like, okay, well then, see you later. I think we would both just take some steps back and really listen and hear, okay, we need to reevaluate. We need to see what's going on here. So
awesome tips. I have to say, here's my recap of these tips. They're so good. I want to share them again. Have the courage to have the hard conversations. That's what Aymee was saying. You have to be willing to come and address the different things that are going on. Give the benefit of the doubt, right? I always like to say, expect the best. Expect that the intent was right. Right? Don't look for the injury or whatever, but to give the benefit of the doubt, do your due diligence, ask the questions. Maybe there is, some whatever going on, but most of the time, I have found in our partnership with Vin and Bill and myself, Billy is such a different type of personality, to your point, Molly, on the difference in personalities than Vin and myself. And it took us a lot of years for me to finally be the one to step up. And I'm going to use the word mediator, but that's not really it, but just to be the person in between, because Vin would, to your point, process something certain way and make a call on what he assumed Bill's motivations were. Mm-hmm. Based on his head, what's in his head, right? And in the beginning of the partnership, I would stay out of the conflicts and stay out of because the disagreements would go away. They would never become anything big. But then there came a point where I was starting to stand in my Sandra Funk space, my own space, and I would say, well, what if he didn't mean that? What if he's not thinking that? Well, what else could it be? And then I would go and I would ask Billy and I'd be like, oh, it wasn't that at all. It wasn't that at all. But he's not a communicator in the way that we are. And so I love that, give the benefit of the doubt, look to create agreements and to improve communication. I heard in there that your goals are similar, that you both really are intentional and want to build a successful business, but you also share the same goal of having some value on the family time. So it's not one of you is, 24/7 around the clock and the other one's like, hey, Fridays at 4, we're out. So you seem to have figured out the balance and what you expect of each other and what you're going to give each other in that. And then understanding that it's a long view and not a race. That's awesome. I love that one, that you don't have to get it all figured out today. It all doesn't have to happen today, right? And then grace for each other's personalities is the last one I heard in there. And that is so, so, so true. You've heard it on the show. My employees have the saying, LuAnn is not yelling, right? It's like they have to give grace. And anytime a new person comes into the mix, which we've had 5 new employees in the last 8 months, wow. At some point, Kim will look at them and go, I'll be coming in and I'll say my thing, and I'm like you, Aymee. I'm direct and all the things, and I get all done, and then I see eyeballs looking at me like terrified, and I'm just like, wait, what's the problem? And Kim goes, okay, can I just explain her to you right now?
Let me translate.
Yes, that's it. She's like, she calls me, I'm the LuAnn translator. You know what I mean? So, and the saying in the office is LuAnn is not yelling. Although, what's so funny is 2 employees about 2 weeks ago, I went off. I was upset about something, not necessarily at them directly, but about a situation that was happening that I thought had gotten beyond what should have been, and I got upset. And the one went, LuAnn is yelling. I'm like, you're darn right, LuAnn's yelling. This is LuAnn. I am yelling. You want to know the difference? Here's the difference.
Make no doubt. This is actually me yelling.
That's it. So anyway, great tips in there. And then one of the things that I thought was an interesting thing that is that navigating the different life stages, right? And knowing that you're partners with somebody that is still growing her family and adding children to their lives, and having like, whoa, you're going to be on maternity leave again, and those kind of agreements, right? Was there anything around that, or is that just you guys sailed through that?
I mean, I'll give all props to Molly. I look at how much she did during that season. I don't think I could have done that. She does have a superpower. Could be tapping into her threeness, but we just talked about it ahead. Like, hey, I'm going to need this amount of time. It was a very short amount of time. She was still, helping and available. I think that was something too, that this would be another thing that maybe we were a little delayed on, but it really wasn't till this year that we really had to say, as our business is growing, we have to divide and conquer more. And so, because before I felt like we so bad wouldn't want to do anything without the other person's, approval, or like, hey, we got this. We got this, opportunity, what should I say? Or how should we do this? Or what should we, it was like, we really wanted to make sure we were bought in on everything. And there wasn't like I didn't want to do this project, or I didn't want to go this direction, or, and I think when she was adding to our family, it was very early on. So we had the different roles, but she was very gracious that she didn't, I felt like for me, it would have been really hard to like have no contact with her, or, that we tried to, have her obviously have a really flexible schedule, but there's a lot of things that like, I can't go design somebody's house. We tried to let all of our clients know, and we tried to plan around it. But she also, she did, looking back, she did probably more than she should at the time. It is healthy.
She left the hospital and met you at the job site.
And I calling her like, I'm not sure. Are you okay? So.
That's funny. No, well, I mean, it sounds like what we always say, what is one of the key factors in having a successful outcome on a project with a client? It's setting up the agreements and the expectations before the project begins, right? Yeah. It's understanding what's going to be the protocols here, what's okay, what's not, and giving grace for when, maybe you need the extra phone call if something's coming up, right? But, and then also too, the one other thing that I want to mention in there, you mentioned how the business evolving to each of you didn't say these words, I'll put them in your mouth though, but each of you evolving to, you have autonomy in certain areas and certain decisions where it doesn't have to be by committee every time, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think early on, knowing just from Aymee, like establishing our two roles, Aymee is business and operations. I'm creative director. And so early on, being able to really establish that allowed both of us to really grow and explore in those areas. I was never second guessing what Aymee was doing on the business and operations side. I really trust her, maybe a little too much, that I was so uninvolved in that. I trusted her. She said, "Oh, I'm meeting with the lawyer to talk about this. I'm meeting with, whoever today." And I would trust her in that. And the same I felt from her, which really gave me a lot of confidence in my role as the creative director, lead designer, is she just said, "Yep, like I trust you and your vision. I think you have this." So there was never this, in our partnership, there's never been this jealousy, competitiveness, this person's doing this and this person's doing this. There's always been, a mutual respect and trust between the two of us, which I think is really rare, especially in a female partnership, at least, people that we've talked to or ones that we've seen. I'm grateful for that.
I love it. I love it. Well, it has been one of the keys to our partnership as well between the three of us. We are like you. We're lucky that we are like you, where we each have different, very distinct superpowers. We don't have two people that are really, that their lane is the same lane, because that's tough. There are strategies and ways to make that also work, but it does help when you each have a strength. And then I just would add to it is that what's always worked for us is that whoever's area or strength it is the final say. So we can, I say it all the time, we can talk, debate, or fight to the death, around and around the three of us for our position for what we want. But when we ultimately cannot agree, it is either a 2 against 1 type thing and the other one just has to stop, or it's, we say, well, it's his area. Because there's times when Vin and I agree, but it's in Billy's area. And see, and that to me has been one of the key factors in our partnership success, is that it isn't as easy as 2 against 1, because there is that respect for, well, he is the one who gets up on the ladder every day and does this. So why can we say that our way in this regard? And for Vin, with doing the finances and so forth, it's like me and Billy all day long can say, we need 2 more trucks. Like, we both vote 2 more, and he can say, sorry, not this year, So,
right.
Yeah.
That's
so
really,
that's good advice.
Really, really helpful. I think we kind of do that, but that's just, I haven't heard that like articulated to that degree before. And it's like, that makes a ton of sense. There might be a lot of communication talk around something, and there needs to be a freedom. Like Molly, I feel really like she's really gracious that if I ask a question, once in a while about like something that's designed or a direction we're going to the marketing, this is usually how it goes. I'll say, hey, I have a question about blah, blah, blah. And then she'll, again, super graciously come back and say, well, here's the 900 things I'm thinking about that are involved in the direction we're going, wherever. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
okay,
I'm not thinking
helpful.
about any of those things.
Actually, I'm like, thank you for letting me get that off my mind. And I see how not relevant it is, disregard, but
right.
Yeah. And
I think
a while I get something in there, but usually not.
Right. Yeah. The thing about it is it's, I think the difference, and I'm glad you heard it in there, is because knowing ahead of time that no matter how passionate you are about your position, that ultimately the superpower of the other is going, because what it is until you really get to those battles to the tooth and nail, you don't realize how hard it's going to be to actually let the other person make a decision that you really believe is not a right decision. I mean, it's just because you can't agree every time. And there has to just be like, okay, your operations, you're creative, and I got to just put my hands, my trust in your hands. And the thing is, in good and fun and prosperous times, that's a no-brainer. And the lesson is to understand, you got to remember that if this is the person you trust in good and fun and prosperous times, how come all of a sudden now you don't? Right. And so you respect that little extra, like you just mentioned, Aymee, that extra thought that they carry around in that process all the time, whatever it is, the plays that they're making and the chess game that they see in front of them, that when we're in our lane, we're not even aware of it. So, but I have found that that's been a challenge, it is a challenge. Like, okay. So, all right. Now, there's one other thing. We've been on the show. We are making sure that we're good citizens of the industry and that we're good friends to our Black colleagues here. And we are having the hard conversations on the show now. And what it is I was educated by one of my Black colleagues that really the conversation needs to happen with our white colleagues. And so before we go, I'm just curious if there's so many things that have happened for years and years and years, but particularly in the last year. And so many of us are bringing different things to it. And the question is, are there any lessons for either of you as white women, as white business owners, as white designers that have come to light? Where are you looking at anything in your business differently in regard to being a partner and a friend to our black the black designers in our community that maybe didn't occur to you before, or maybe you've done it before? But I'm finding that the learning lessons are huge for us as white people, and we're either hearing them and paying attention to them, or we're not. Or we're not looking for them. So I'm curious, I'm just committed to having this conversation, to making sure that we do our part here in the community. So anything go through your mind for each of you for learning lessons in 2020 and all of the things that happen?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for asking the question. This year has been really eye-opening. And before this year, I wouldn't have said, I wouldn't have taken a look in and really said anything differently. But I think this past year, when everything happened, we took a really deep dive inside our business. And the first thing that I did was I looked at who we were following, who was on my feed, to bring awareness. And I was noticing, I had been following all people that looked like me. And so the first step that I just brought to our team was, this has to change. What can we do to bring awareness? We spoke out on our Instagram and mentioned that, and said that we wanted to do better, that we wanted to be better because we love our Black brothers and sisters that are in the industry. And so what can we do to be better? And it was shocking, even just some of the negative response that we got from that, that I couldn't even imagine what's
negative about it, right?
Yeah, what's negative about this?
Yes.
How can this be negative? And so internally inside our business, we decided, okay, we need to go through our followers. We need to start following a lot more Black interior designers. So we did. We also did a lot of research on Black makers in our industry and did a highlight post on that. And as we're sourcing products, we're also being aware of that, being aware of who we're sourcing from and what they look like. So we are still learning. We still have a long ways to go, but there's definitely been a shift in our business this year.
And I have to say that I think, at least that, right? That's what else can I can't say what else can we ask for, because I know that there's so much that needs to happen and can be asked for. But it starts with the shift, just like you said. And so I, congratulate you on the shift, and I encourage you to continue to look and to understand the different ways that you guys as industry leaders, can continue to make the difference and shed the light on and make sure the doors open, and that, there are a seat at the table for all of the colleagues that desire to be there and have the talent and the business chops to be there. And that's what is the criteria for being included, right? And so, and even I remember it was Cheryl Luckett who said, it was hard for her to source for her projects for her Black clients, so that there was art and things that look like the family she was designing for. And so as a community, all of us of all colors, when we support more Black makers and artisans, that will enable their businesses to grow, so that it isn't so hard to find their products and services, so that, our Black colleagues can design homes that reflect the people who live in them, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I love that.
Well, thank you. I thank you for, sharing what you have done in regard to this, and that you are, committed to continuing to look within yourselves and your team and to be a supporter of our colleagues. So, and, beyond that, you guys are pretty awesome. I think you're both hashtag smart ladies. So there's that.
Thanks. That means a lot.
Thank you.
No, I'm so glad that you both, came on the show today. It was a fun, story to hear the journey of, Molly's begging and all of that. It's behind us now. Come on, Molly, you don't have to beg anymore.
Come on, Aymee.
Oh my gosh.
No, it's awesome. And what it is, making a joke of it, but I absolutely see that you both bring to the table what the other person needs. And so it's a nice thing to see it in the two of you, that Aymee, you value as much in Molly the things that she is good at as she does value in you. So, congratulations to the two of you. I wish you lots of luck. Be fun to watch you continue to grow your business. And, we'll have to do a Where Are They Now in a few years and see what's going on.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I
hope
would love that.
That's fun.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
LuAnn.
you so much.
So nice to meet you. When we appreciate all the inspiration you give us and so many of our colleagues. Keep doing the good work.
Thank you. That was so fun to talk with these ladies. It had me going down memory lane a bit, right? So many similarities to our partnership at WindowWorks. Business partnerships can be and are hard. I've been knee deep in one for over 30 years, and I actually just entered into a new one as we have taken over majority ownership of Exciting Windows. And in both situations, we've certainly had our moments. But I also feel so fortunate to have our little team of 3 and now our little team of 4 at Exciting Windows share the ups and downs, the wins and the losses, right? Aymee and Molly have approached their partnership with such grace and dedication. They came into the business a little bit on a whim, right? Really just because an interesting opportunity presented itself. They didn't know if that first design gig, that they did for a friend was going to amount to anything or not. But they both liked the idea and they gave it a go. That's really the only prerequisite to entrepreneurship, isn't it? Being willing to try something, to test out the opportunities, to show up ready, willing, and able, even if we're not so 100% able in those beginning days, right? So, how do you go from being 2 ladies with kids to building a working building partnership into a serious interior design business with 62,000 Instagram followers? Well, you heard them. For starters, you start by saying yes. And let me stop right here because this is a big deal. Saying yes to something big and new amidst the inevitable fear, the feelings of, possibly unworthiness, and the mind games that we play on ourselves can be hard. And you know what? Doing it and saying yes is heroic. Because most people do stop right there because it is scary to say yes to the unknown. I mean, what experience did Aymee and Molly truly have? They were just a couple of moms who had a knack for making their own homes beautiful. And I'm sure they struggle with that voice whispering in their ear, telling them, are we good enough? Are we ready? Right? We all have been there. These are the moments that define us, though, aren't they? Which mindset are you allowing yourself to listen to? The yes, I can mindset or who do you think you are mindset? Aymee and Molly chose the yes, you can road. And so guess what? They could. And guess what else? They did. And now they're building something that they're both so proud of, that it brings them joy and accomplishment. And their partnership, of course, hasn't been all smiles and lollipops. They both shared with us how things got hard and how they had to have those hard conversations, right? And learn to lean in and take the time to understand each other. Because they're opposites, which is what makes for such great partnerships, right? Business partnerships, but it also can make things pretty tricky, all right? However, they're mature enough, and more importantly, they value their friendship enough to be willing to have those hard conversations. The ones that we sort of all would prefer to run away from because they're hard and they're uncomfortable and we're not sure how they're going to turn out. So I just want to ask you for a second here. Are you having trouble in other parts of your business, like keeping track of your orders, your project management, your books, your proposals? All those back end things that we love to hate? I would love for you to do some research and see if My Doma Studio would help you. It's a workflow software that manages your projects from beginning to end. As a podcast listener, you can try it for 20% off for 3 full months. To see if My Doma Studio is right for you, go to mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. And of course, the link will be in the show notes. So, Aymee and Molly are in business together for 5 years. They've had good times and they've worked through the tough stuff. Their advice to us on building and maintaining a healthy business partnership is this. First, make sure you go into the partnership with mutual respect and trust. Love that. Second, have the courage to start and work through the hard conversations. High five on that one. Next, when you're not 110% sure of the motivation behind something, give your partner the benefit of the doubt. OMG, I cannot tell you how well this has served me in my last 30 plus years in business with Vin and Bill. Okay. Next, make sure you're on the same page about your business goals and set the workload expectations and duties up front. Another high five. If you're both in it for the long haul, process decision making with that end in mind. The critical key thing. And then finally, have grace for each other's personalities. Figuring out each other's Enneagram might be very helpful. This has served us very well. We use a different personality index profile, but it has enlightened each of us to our strengths, our weaknesses, our tendencies. And this is so helpful when you really are at odds, because then you think, you know what, this is just wired into this person. Give some grace and let it go. Love, love, love all the tips and benefits and ideas that Molly and Aymee shared, right? So there you have it. It's really, really great advice on developing any kind of meaningful, lasting relationship in life and business, honestly, right? And I just want to ask you, if you haven't picked up the new book, A Well-Designed Business, The Power Talk Friday Experts, Volume 2, just know that it has tons of advice from some of the best #smart ladies in the business who each own their zone of genius. Find their stories and their tips on everything from social media to bookkeeping at LuAnnNigara.com/book. And one final reminder, we have a Zoom date this week, don't we? Well, we do if you are one of the early bird registrants for LuAnn Live. That's right. Every one of you who registered for LuAnn Live early bird, remember, the promise was that you got 3 Zoom meetings with me. The first one is this week if you're listening in real time. Check your email. If you know you should be getting this, check your email. More importantly, check your spam email, right? Make sure you got your link. And I also want to say, if you were there and part of LuAnn Live, you know that the recordings are coming to you. And I'm just going to tell you right up front, they're going to come out a little late, right? Another week or 2 weeks, I have to say. Here's the thing. My producer for the event got COVID right after the event. And so this crazy pandemic is insane. It is a real thing, isn't it? And I have to say, thankfully, he is going to be okay. There's no danger of that, okay? But he's out of commission, right? So hang on. And remember, once we do send them out to you, you will have them forever. All that goodness, all those lessons that you can review at your fingertips whenever you want to. So all good. It might take a minute or 2 to get to them, a little longer than you thought, but we have to give grace, right? For things happen in real people's lives, in their businesses. All right. So I would ask you to join me in sending some positive vibes to my producer, Mike, so that he's on his feet, really fast. All righty. Okay. Thanks, sons, for joining me today. I totally appreciate it. I totally appreciate Molly and Aymee, and I hope that you will decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.